You need to know this right now. HMRC just gain more access to your finances, your online activity, and even your personal life. So in this video, I'm going to show you how much power HMRC really has, what actually triggers them to look into you, and most importantly, how you can protect yourself, especially from what I see. At the end of the video, I'll share a simple framework you can follow to protect yourself against penalties and tax investigations. To start, let's look at the new powers HMRC gained from the 2025 autumn budget. Okay, earlier this year, HMRC confirmed that making tax digital for income tax starts in April 2026, which means that if your annual turnover is more than £50,000 a year, you'd need to prepare and submit 4 quarterly tax returns showing your income, and then pay your tax by the 31st of January, as we currently do. I actually have a video on this channel that explains how this entire system works. But in this budget, they're already talking about consultations taking place about the necessity of timelier payments, even before this scheme is fully operational. There is no further detail to what that means, but the government is hinting at something here. I believe what they're trying to say is, we are not waiting 9 months for your tax anymore, you have to pay more often. But it gets worse. If you have a normal PAYE job and you earn some extra income on the side such as food delivery, your employer could be required to deduct extra tax through your tax code very soon. It's not clear to me how this system would work in practice. I imagine you'd need to tell your employer about your activities outside of work so they can deduct the right amount of tax on your behalf, but no one knows yet. There's no start date for these new rules. But one thing is clear. HMRC wants their money sooner, and they can now estimate what you owe far more accurately. From April 2028, card companies, banks and online platforms will send HMRC your data much more frequently. For example, how much you sold on eBay, how much you earned through Deliveroo or Uber, were there any unusual transactions from your bank account. If your tax return doesn't match what these platforms say, you're in trouble. In my experience, people aren't scared of HMRC because they're guilty. They're scared because even honest mistakes can now trigger penalties and investigations. And if you've ever struggled to pay a tax bill before, the 2025 budget will make your life even harder. The government is putting £64 million into private debt collectors and £89 million into their own debt teams to increase enforcement and repayments. That means the photographer with a slow January or the Uber driver whose car just broke down will be hit far harder than before. You receive more letters, more reminders, and ultimately less opportunity to negotiate. And the scary part is that these new powers are stacked on top of what HMRC could already do. Most people think they just wait for your tax return and check a few numbers. But long before this budget, they already had access to dozens of data sources through their AI Connect system. They could already cross-reference data from banks, DVLA, land registry, online platforms, foreign tax authorities, and even social media. If your lifestyle doesn't match your declared income, the system will notice. For example, if you tell HMRC you earn $22,000 a year, but you register a $34,000 car with the DVLA, the system flags it. If you report 1,000 online sales, but eBay shows 5,000 linked to your account, the system sees the gap. And before you realize, you get a brown envelope on your doorstep. Maybe you did nothing wrong. Maybe the platform reported an incorrect figure. Or maybe the system put in inaccurate data. But the point is, you're not judged by a person. You're judged by an algorithm. This is why people get inquiries even when they haven't done anything wrong. And now that the budget gives HMRC even more data points, the system can compare you against thousands of patterns instantly. So it feels like the government have a total control over your finances, including being able to look directly at your bank account in rare cases, but if they suspect wrongdoing, they can do it. And if you think you're not on their radar because you only have a small side hustle or a few investment returns, you're wrong. You're exactly who they're looking for. The government can't effectively target the big corporations. They already have armies of tax advisors and offshore structures, so they'll be okay. But they can't really take anything from people on the lower end either, so they focus on the only people that they really can. People with normal jobs earning 40,000 a year, small limited companies, the landlord renting out one property, people selling things online just to clear their basement. This is where honest mistakes happen and where technology makes those mistakes stand out. And here are the most common triggers that get flagged up. Many people sell second-hand clothes, tech or furniture online. And if you are genuinely clearing out some personal items, it's unlikely you have to pay any tax on them. But if you start buying things with the intention to resell at a profit, you're effectively running a business, and that's where people get in trouble. If you are reselling items for profit on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, doing freelance projects on Fiverr, or providing services like food delivery or cleaning, you're performing a trading activity. And from 2025, every major platform is already sending HMRC a full report on how much they paid you. And if your total income from trading activities goes above £1,000 a year, you must declare it because they can easily find out. Another common trigger is when your expenses look unusually high compared to other businesses in the same industry. Maybe you're a surveyor and you just paid for new equipment, various subscriptions, and the annual insurance in one go. You've done nothing wrong, but the system compares your profitability to other surveyors and tradespeople and flags you because your numbers look unusual. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy equipment and spend what you're supposed to and what you have to, but when you do, make sure you keep extra good records and ensure the numbers are sensible and justifiable. The next trigger feels intrusive because it looks directly at your personal life. If your social media shows multiple holidays, luxury hotels, or expensive cars, while you report 12,000 of income, HMRC sees that as a mismatch. There might be a simple explanation. Maybe you received help from family, or borrowed some money, or even used your savings. But the system doesn't know your story. If your lifestyle looks higher than your income, keep proof of where the money came from. And since the budget is pushing you to pay your taxes sooner, HMRC is now far less tolerant of delays. If you're behind on VAT, corporation tax or self-assessment, you will be immediately on their radar. That's why you need to take deadlines so seriously. I recommend you get used to free online tools like Google Calendar or Microsoft To Do to send your automatic reminders. To me, they've been a lifesaver. It takes 10-15 minutes to schedule all your deadlines, but you'll be saving so much stress down the line. And if you can't pay a bill, contact HMRC early and ask for a time to pay arrangement. It puts you in a much better position if you're the one who reaches out first. And finally, mixing personal and business spending is the most common reason people get flagged. I mean, if you use the same card for fuel, equipment, groceries, Amazon orders, snacks, personal items, you won't remember what was what at the end of the year. To HMRC, that looks like poor record keeping. And poor record keeping equals higher risk. And higher risk leads to more investigations and tax letters that read something like, "We need more information about your tax return," or "We are checking your income and expenses." And you immediately start to think, what did I do? What did I forget? Am I in trouble? So the question becomes, what actually happens when you receive a letter from HMRC? Well, they send letters for different reasons. Sometimes they're random, other times it's because they think you haven't declared something on your tax return. What you need to remember, however, is that even if you receive a letter, it doesn't mean you're in trouble. If you respond on time and if you're organized, you should be fine. Just make sure you're able to provide all your bank statements, receipts, invoices, mileage logs, and any rental agreements if that's applicable for you. Because good record keeping isn't optional anymore. Now there are many simple tools that can make your life easier, like an accounting software, mileage tracking apps, or cloud storages where you can store your data. And after all this, if you realize you've made a mistake on your tax return, just correct it and resubmit it again. There will be no issue with that as long as you do it within 12 months of the filing deadline. But if it's already longer than 12 months, it's always better to tell HMRC about a genuine mistake before they find out. If you're upfront, penalties can be reduced and sometimes removed entirely. For example, if they estimate £1,000 of extra tax due to undeclared income, the penalty may only be £300 or 30% if it was a genuine mistake. But if they think the mistake was deliberate, penalties can go up to 70% or even up to 100% if you try to hide it. And if you don't report a genuine mistake and HMRC finds out, they can look back at your tax returns from up to 6 years in the past if you were careless and up to 20 years if you tried to hide your mistakes. That's the real cost of getting something wrong. But most of this stress is avoidable once you know how to prepare, and that's exactly where we're going next. Avoiding penalties and tax investigations is much easier when you have a simple framework to follow. So let me give you something I use with all my clients. I call it the HMRC safety triangle. And if you get these 3 steps right, you avoid most of the confusion that people face when they're filing their tax returns. The first part of the safety triangle is simple. You need to make sure you track things properly. HMRC's entire system runs on data, so the only way to stay ahead is to stay on top of your data. That means keeping a clear record of the money that come in, the money that go out, and having digital copies of all business expenses. An accounting software will be incredibly useful here, but you can do just as well with a simple spreadsheet as long as you update it regularly. And when you track things consistently, nothing in your tax return is a surprise to you or to HMRC. The second part of the framework is to separate your business funds from your personal one. This alone removes half of the confusion people face, because when everything goes through one account, even you struggle to remember what was business and what was personal. HMRC sees the same mess, and to them, messy records look like a risk. But if you keep your business spending and personal spending apart, everything becomes far more clear. And the last part of the safety triangle is arguably the most important. Declare everything that looks like taxable income. Most inquiries don't happen because people are dishonest. They happen because people forget to include income they didn't think counted. A few online sales, freelance work, cash jobs, some app payments, small things like this that slip through the cracks. But HMRC now sees most of this automatically. So if you have a side income that needs to be declared, it's better to do it early because they will find out. To make things easier, I've put together a free PDF that walks you through the entire safety triangle with simple examples and a monthly checklist you can complete in under 10 minutes. The link is in the description below, so head over now and let me know what you think. So now you know how to stay safe from HMRC, but you could still be wasting money by driving the wrong company car. So watch this video next, where I show you the best company cars for limited company directors in 2025.